Okay, so aside from your awesome attire, you played the lead Solomon Lynch.
Yes.
What was it like having your first lead role in a feature?
It was quite the experience. It was a thrill. It was very nerve-wracking. George Johnson was, just told him tonight, the perfect director for me to step into those shoes for the very first time. He creates such a relaxing set. And when stress is high, he pulls you aside and says, hey, there's a reason we picked you. You're going to go out there and do it better than anyone else we would have picked. So just go out there and do that. So he put me at ease. And I just appreciate the trust that George and James had in me to take on that role.
That is awesome. And on top of all that, as the lead actor, you're learning these lines and things like that. At some point, you were appointed the composer of the movie. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so initially I was hired as the orchestrator for the original songs that James had already written. That's all I was hired to do. I came on, they gave me, it was just vocal tracks and piano, and then I added all the orchestra parts, so the strings and the brass and the woodwinds. So I did that for all 14 songs or whatever. And then during that process, George found out I acted and thought he might actually be a good fit for Solomon. So I was working on the music, they mentioned that, I auditioned, and they gave me the part. And then afterwards, I composed the original score. So I did the music at the end too. So I was pretty much involved the entire time. So it was a thrill to see it from conception to what we saw on the screen tonight.
So you're more than a triple threat. You sing, you dance, you act, you compose and score music.
Thank you.
You definitely moved audiences. I had people around me crying because, yes, it's a comedic film, but there's also a lot of touching moments in it. Can you tell me what it was like being funny, but also turning around and hitting those emotions like when you were singing with your father?
Yes. Comedy is definitely what I lean into the most. So for me, comedy comes very naturally. I love comedy. The emotional scenes, definitely, it is hard to transition from making people laugh to intentionally getting in that moment, pretending this is your father that is now gone. My own father is still with me, which I'm so grateful for. But you have to imagine life without your father when you're singing, when I sang that song to the portrait. And then the emotion comes, you know. But the importance of, which again, George was so good about, he knew that that scene was going to be an emotional drain. And so it was a very limited set. There were not many people on. And they intentionally only did 2 takes, just so that it was pure emotion and then move on. And so it was a very cool experience, and I'm so grateful.
George is definitely a mindful director, and that's absolutely amazing. Tell me what it was like being a comedic actor, working alongside another comedic actor, Robert Amaya. What was that like?
It was such a thrill. When I found out Robert was playing Christmas Present, I had a little bit of, nerves, and I was a little starstruck. I'm very familiar with Robert's work. So it was, when we first met, it was like an immediate connection, an immediate bond. And he was so fun to work with and so affirming. He knew it was my first lead role, and he came up to me all the time, would pull me aside and say, Aaron, you are knocking it out of the park. I just want you to know this does not look like your first film. Those kind of things. And then when we would get together and do a scene, we laughed a lot. Had to kind of rein it in to be professional and stuff, because we were just having so much fun.
I think we all were having so much fun on set.
It was
a blast to be on set with you. And I want to ask you, what are some things that you want to say to the audience that are considering seeing this film?
Go see it. It's such a great Christmas film. It's one that gives you all the feels that you want to feel at Christmas time. And it just knowing what all went into it, we understand all that the twos, poured into this film, that George and Carrie poured into this film, the community, and just that their goal in honoring the Lord through everything. Just how we opened the day in prayer, we had prayer partners on the set every day, and it was just a laser focus on why we're making this movie, and it showed. And I just think it's going to bless a lot of people and make people laugh and cry and everything in between.
I sure laughed and cried, and I was even there when we filmed it. Well, it was a pleasure having you. You did a fabulous job. I was crying, and I was even on set. People around me were crying and laughing. This was definitely a movie to see, and thank you for coming out and being at this red carpet event with us.
Well, thank you for your part in this and for hosting this great interview.
All right. Thank you. That's Aaron Fullan, everybody.